So the novelty is over, and we're in it. And it looks different when you're past the place of, oh, I can do this. This isn't so terrible. This is a thing that will pass. It's not any different than the rest of my life. I mean, whatever it is one is going through in the mind, to allow oneself to accommodate the sort of strangeness of the moment. By defining it as a moment and defining it as something that passes and everything's going back to, as they call it normal or new normal. It's really not like that. We really are experiencing fundamental, foundational change, whatever that means. It's defined by a couple of things. One is the emergence of a kind of blank slate. Like, what now? How do I fill this? And the other is a profound sense of the unknown, truly not knowing. And it's not unique to you. The not knowing is universal. It is everywhere. There are a lot of people seeking for the known, pretending to know, trying to take advantage of some sense of clarity about future. But the reality is, I believe, we have to hand ourselves over to something that we have not really consciously witnessed before. And in fact, we are and have been training to do that for most of our lives. It's very easy, or relatively easy, during periods of calmness and predictability, to sit down every morning or once a week or whatever your practice is, and feel, oh, this feels good. It's a kind of a respite. It's a kind of a take me in, comfort me, still pointed relaxation. It's a kind of bit of a clarity about how you are in the world and how the world works. And that's all completely wonderful and one of the real benefits of a meditative life. But when the world changes around you in profound ways, it challenges all of your preconceptions, all of your muscle strength, all of your conjecture about what can be, should be, will be coming toward you. It really, in a way, obliterates that. But what it doesn't obliterate, on the opposite, what it expands, is your clarity about this moment. Because putting it anywhere further than that will cause you to have a very limited flashlight looking into a very dark space. All it gives you is your imagination. It'll show you the fears, it'll show you the unknowns, it'll show you the stuff you make up in your mind. But the real clarity of this moment is an extraordinary reality. It starts out with something, when you get quiet enough, that is somewhat celebratory. And what it celebrates is, I am alive. I am alive. In the deeper sense, it celebrates, I am. I am. I exist. I am a sensing organism alive to whatever this is. And it doesn't exactly give you a explanation for what this is, but it gives you lots and lots and lots of clues. And part of the clues that you get of the world around you is that it is not something you can assemble into a known, this is what it is. You can just experience it in such a way that you start to feel that being present in it has unbelievable vibrancy and value. Now, if you touch the upper buttons of love, joy, bliss, beauty, truth, they will reverberate through you and they will make you feel so at home in this moment that not projecting the next moment will not become a fearful event. It's just this moment is beautiful. The next moment will arrive. It may arrive in a simple way. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm hungry. I should walk. I should take a nap. I should draw a picture. I should play a puzzle. Whatever the New York Times and all these other places are giving you as things to do, they may arrive as something you can do. Or you can just sit there. But something will ultimately move you into action. Something. And pressing those buttons or sitting in those spaces of why it's so wonderful to be here is really great. There's also a kind of subterranean space that we all know, tend to avoid, but it is projection of what needs to be done, what will happen if you don't do it, what the future might bring or not bring. It's very future directed. And it sets you up into a sphere of fearing you're not knowing, fearing what is not available to you, and projecting a world on that space. Some of you will project a relatively benign world on that space. Some of you will project a disturbing world on that face. The only reality that will come out of the projections of whatever it is you're projecting is that there is a path ahead of you that leads to a very specific end of your being. As much as we don't like that truth, that is where the road leads. How you walk that road, in a way, is your choice. For many people in their 20s and 30s and 40s, etc., the end of the road and the fact that it ends is not all that meaningful. For those of us in our 70s and higher 80s, the end of the road is approaching. What it will look like will never be something we enjoy, probably. If we're blindsided by it, that feels unfair and yet quick and easy. If you have to face it with a long-term vision of suffering and unpleasantness, that's really hard. And the only thing we know is that inevitability is there. So, given the fact that the novelty is over and we're starting to face the blank slate, we are probably, predictably, by our own nature, giving into projection of discomfort, fear of future, what to do now, how long is this going to go on, can I buy more Kleenex? What are the fear zone stuff that comes in? And if there's a way to allow that stuff to rise up and not get angry at yourself for it, because it's completely human for that to happen, just look at it and go, okay, I have to go and whatever, buy toilet paper. I have to go buy something to feed myself with. You can make that a thing you do, or you can make it, oh my God, are there going to be a million people there, and what's going to happen, and what if I forget my mask? And you can go through that mental process. I would say one of the great values of this practice is take a breath, and don't go there. Keep the clarity, keep the openness, make a plan, and go forward. And stay simple. Moment to moment, focus on the impossibility to know the future, the joy, the love, the beauty, the truth of being, and the possibility, trust me, that you will be guided through this and supported no matter what happens. Once you touch this ineffable, meaning unknowable truth in yourself, you feel there is something that is there for you. And if at any moment in time it's not there for you, it's really in many ways that you have turned away from it, that you have given yourself over to not trusting, not believing, fearing. And then when that happens, rather than beat yourself up, which people do, just go, nope, nope, take a breath, and try to find that spot again of, okay, we are going to take you through this up until the very last millisecond of your existence. You will be led, guided, comforted, supported. Even if you don't feel my presence, it will be present. You will be protected, if you will. Not from death, but from the fear of death. You will go to the store, you will do the things that you need to do. Life will work until it doesn't. If we are facing that kind of future, and I don't want to project it and don't think it's worth projecting, but if we're facing a future of real loss and real disturbance and real upheaval, when it arrives, it will arrive moment to moment to moment. Some of these moments will be moments you will not like. And that's where the work comes in. Rudy's work is, how do I deal with a reality that is not a reality that is comforting, secure, projecting into a joyful space? What do you do when, there's no electricity for your house and the internet's gone down, or whatever those kinds of things are? What do you do? Well, rather than project what you will do, you'll find out when it happens. If something comes up inside you and says, you know what? You should buy some extra food if it's available. You know what? You might want to get a generator for your house if you can afford it. You know what? These are kinds of things you can do to push off some of the potential suffering, but there's only so much you can push off, because in the end, there are discomforts for every human being. And how do you manage to move through all that? Well, again, bring it back into this moment. Do the work. Find your way into something inside you that really connects to this deeper knowing. It knows it's facing the unknowable, but it knows it. It's the ultimate knowing. It doesn't give you intellectual clarity and satisfaction. It gives you a kind of sensory satisfaction, a sensory knowing. And in the end, what you start to discover is that you are much more of a sensory organism than you are an intellectual organism. That your senses are guiding you through this world of manifestation. That if you lie in bed at night without distraction, you are mostly a pile of senses going through all of this stuff. They may go into your brain on occasionally, but mostly they're just sensations. And there's a very common experience that we all have, which is we relate to the sensations as though they are about us. Our mental construct takes all these sensations and calls them me. What I've been working on a lot recently, because I have a lot of discomforting stuff going on in the middle of the night, is just watching. Watching the sensations, going, yep, okay. And if I turn this way, it's going to turn into that, which it does. And then I turn another way and it turns into that. And I just watch it and I see the ballet of life going on. And I keep watching it and I keep getting quieter and quieter. And I realize these are sensations that are happening, but they don't have to be happening to me. They're just happening. They arise and they fall away endlessly. We are beings that have endless sensation that turns into appreciation and fear, pain and joy, all of these things. And the whole idea of awakening or enlightenment is to rise up out of this me idea, this sense that I am the victim of or the beneficiary of this stuff, and let that quietly, peaceably wash away, which is what meditation will allow for. And you will start to become just a line that I love. You will be at play in the fields of the Lord. You are the sensations that play in God consciousness. And there is no you, there is just all of that. I cannot promise you anything. I cannot predict anything. I cannot tell you what the future holds on any level. I can only tell you that I have done this thing, and I know most of us here have done this thing, of creating a practice of sitting still and finding its capacity to bring depth, clarity, insight, vision, and this thing called acceptance. Some people call it radical acceptance. It becomes radical when you have to accept the fact that your electricity has gone out. Things like that. But until that happens, it doesn't have to be that radical. It's just acceptance. And you accept the totality of your life as it is, because it is. And because the sensations you are experiencing have all arisen based on a history of an organism that has certain kinds of predictable reactions, and also the reality of stuff occurring that has never occurred before. And so you're facing all of these things inside you, and you have to go, okay, okay. And you take your breath, you sit quietly, you open, you focus, you do the practice, and you find yourself having a capacity to non-react. You just go, okay, okay. And if something happens that persists, like for a long time, like you start to feel real stress and you can't get over it, and you find these things going on for periods of time that really prolong. I don't know exactly what to tell you, except, in my own situation, I was told I was going to go through a year of what was called, I've talked to you about this, Neptune conjunct Sun, which is a process of dissolution of separate self, very painful, very aggressively experiential. And I watch it now when it comes in. And it used to be it would blindside me because I didn't know what it was. But now I just watch this awfulness, and it feels like stress. It feels like fear. It feels like all of this stuff you don't like. But it reveals the reactionary part of you. And when that stuff comes up, you go, oh, look, there's that fear. There's that problem. There's that you responding. And you open, and you let it go, and you let it go, and you let it go. That's the practice. And as that thing happens, it may go on for 4 days, 5 days, a week, whatever. You go, okay. And then when it passes, which it tends to do before it returns, in the period of its passing, you will experience something akin to real inner joy. Just joy. You will have joy watching the sun come up. You will have joy walking down the street and seeing the blossoms on the trees. You will have joy listening to the birds. I go out to get the newspaper in the morning, and I can't leave because the birds are singing with such unbridled joy. And I just stand there. I just overwhelmed by bird song. And I have never really done that before. So I'm learning as I go, as we all are, how do we find our way into this simple, unknown space with a clean slate? I don't know how many of you are artists, but one of the great joys of being an artist, unless you're a frustrated artist, is having a blank canvas and a series of pens or paints or whatever it is you have, and taking that paintbrush and dipping it into whatever color you'll feel it should be blue or yellow, green, whatever. You'll dip it in and you'll go to the canvas and you'll study the magnitude of the canvas and you'll try to feel, where am I led? And it's really interesting because there's a voice that directs you and it moves you to touch the canvas in a particular place with a particular color. And the minute you do that, you're on the way. You are on your way to creative filling of the unknown. You are becoming part of the creative solution to the unknown. You are dominating the canvas and the clarity of that canvas with unknown strokes and not knowing how or why, and something is emerging. It may turn out to be beautiful and exquisite and hang in a museum, and it may just be something that, gives you pleasure for a while, and it may be something you toss out. You just go, that didn't work. It doesn't matter. The blank canvas is an opportunity to fill time and space or a literal canvas with something that may in the end be beautiful, that may deeply entertain you, that may connect you to your unconscious creativity, that may begin to drive you to know that you can fill nothingness with somethingness, and you become the artist of your life, of your own life. So this is an amazing time for all of that to happen. And I'm talking about all of us who are not in a situation where there's no food and we're going to lose our house. And if that's happening for you, that's a different discussion. It isn't totally different. It's just, it pushes you further down the road because that kind of suffering is massive and one is going to have to look for any kind of help that one can find. But even in that magnitude of suffering, where it's really usually very hard to find your way into the inner space that will guide you through it. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, spiritual's way at the end. Mostly it's eating and sleeping and covering and being in a home. So if you're around and people are really, really suffering, lend a hand. Do what you can do. If you're really suffering, reach out. This is a time of communal help to the degree that we can do it. You only have so much food in your cupboard, so clearly take care of yourself and your families, but anything that's extra, you can try to offer. Any monies you can provide for people out there who have none, one can do that. But this is it's an amazing, amazing opportunity to witness our inner being, who we are, and to learn how to deal with a blank slate and the unknown. That's the key. Blank slate, unknown. There is no known for us other than the witnessing of that which is known, which is not future, it's present tense. The known is present tense. It will always be present tense. And if you're lucky, you'll know how to move from the known that is uncomfortable and unpleasant and stressful into the known that is loving and embracing and joyful. It's all part of the same structure. Where do you put your attention? Breathe into it, ask for help, reach into the void of the moment and say, please help me to let go, surrender. And this deeper space will present itself and you will find yourself able, moment to moment to moment, to take the next step, whatever that may be, into the reality of your life. Any questions?
I have a question or comment. Can you hear me, Bruce?
Yes, Julia, thank you.
Hey, I guess it's something I want to share. I'm not quite sure what the question is, but so I suddenly feel like I might cry. So, as you know, which has been my journey for, it'll be 12 years in August since I met you, about my mother, and sometimes when you say, oh, the energy or the love of the universe is like feeling a mother's love, I just, through the years have just felt numb, or, it didn't feel like love. and there's been, you know, a lot of conflict and drama around that, and a lot of not being able to feel the depths of things about my mother. And I knew that my writing was missing that. Like there was like a box of paints that I didn't have access to. And about a week and a half ago, that dam broke, and I feel my mother's love. And it's so beautiful and so pure. And it's like a new valve or a new muscle that's learning to open and to embrace that and to feel the safety and the nurturing and the embrace. And it's so beautiful. It's like I feel the love of everything. And you know, through this time, I can't believe my good fortune of where I landed to be experiencing this sheltering in place. I'm with Bonnie in a beautiful, loving home on 20 acres, so safe, so loved, and it's so still here. And I'm doing very little action, like to fulfill my needs. Like, you know, with not being in sheltering in place, I would be like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to go out and meet all these needs, and it never felt like my needs were met. Like there was this constant, you know, fear and mistrust, no matter kind of what, you know, how deep my spiritual practice went. And now it's like a child, like I just have the need and the need is fulfilled. And it's really beautiful. It's very new and really beautiful, but it's ancient. It's always been there.
You know, I love what you're saying, of course. I've known your story a long time. Real breakthrough happens. The ultimate breakthrough is the love of God.
Yeah.
The love of God is very similar to the love of mother, and it's deeper and bigger. And to feel that love coming through to you is really, the mother love, when it works, hints at what that is. But the love of God ultimately is a love that you cannot begin to comprehend.
Yeah.
But it loves us. It loves us. And it has much of the resonance of what you're saying. And breaking through to that is part of the journey that we are on, assuming you're on it. You know, you can also go through life just hating that person or hating others and being angry and living in reaction to that. And all you can do when you have a spiritual journey is go, I wish somebody would wake up, that they don't have to live it that way. All you want for other people is to go, stop the thing that punishes you and find the thing that gives you love and nourishment. It's there. I mean, that's the incredible part of what we do here. And I don't know how many times to say it, is it's just waiting. And it's the Christian motto, you know, knock and it shall be opened. Ask and ye shall receive. Seek and ye shall find. It's so absolute. It's not just hypothetical, it's do it. But people don't do it because they want someone else to do it for them, or they'll do it tomorrow, or they do it for 10 minutes and go, that didn't work. You know, it's not like that. If you want to build a house, you don't just buy a few pieces of wood and a couple of nails. It's a job. It's a structure. It's a construct. You give yourself a life and let yourself build this incredible space. But also, for, you know, to keep my analogies alive, you're going to have to tear that space down at some point, or it's going to get blown away. And you have to go, you have to appreciate, and the way I have come to this through career, that, you know, I built a big career and it's over. And I have no sense of loss. I have no sense of it being past tense. It's like, okay, I didn't actually tear it down as much as it just went like that. I mean, there's little echoes of it, of course, as there will be of our childhood and our all of our relationships and all of that, but mostly they fall into past tense. This entire structure that we build of a life will get dismantled. And there will be a part of us which will not enjoy that. And there will be a part of us that knows, of course, this is how it works. And if you can connect to that hand holding that you get from being connected to God, to this inner space, if you can hold that hand while it's going on, trust me, it sends back all the assurance you need. You know, this idea, this line that I always try to find in myself: trust the journey. Trust the journey. If you don't trust it, yes, you're out there alone and struggling. If you trust it, what are you trusting? You're trusting the design, you're trusting the goal, you're trusting the mechanism of the journey, and that means you're allowing something greater to be happening. Mm-hmm. Even if you can't name that thing, even if there isn't an absolute guarantee that you can, send something to its mailing address, there is this unbelievable embrace that we are all in. And if you don't feel it, it's not because it's not there, it's because you're looking in the wrong direction. Take a look, take a look. And one of the great things about sheltering in place, or whatever this is called, confinement, is it gives you a real opportunity to do this thing. What else are you going to do? I mean, what else are you going to do? Take the time, sit down, and feel this. Go for walks, ask. Don't just wait for it to come. Don't just think, well, if you don't come, I'm not going to believe it. It is there. Look for it. Do the work. Do what you have to do. The love is real. And I say love as a kind of almost like a romantic thing. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's something so beyond that. It's the love of your mother for you. And trust me, mothers, even if they, if they don't like their children, love them.
Yeah.
You do love your children. You cannot, there's a biological thing that comes through. It may not last long and it may not find its way into demonstration, but there is something there that is a biological reality. And I found it. Anybody else? I know you're all experiencing this thing.
Hey. Bruce? Dale? 8 years ago at a retreat, it was the first time that I really experienced my mother's love and was able to forgive her. And I had always understood that she had done the best she could. And in my mind, through my Christian training, I forgave her. But I never really experienced it until 8 years ago, when the retreat director said, "Tell me the first thing you remember." And I said, "Oh, I don't want to go back there. I've done years of therapy, and I just don't want to go back. Don't need to go back there." "Well, just humor me. Just go back there." And so I did. And I don't have to go into all the details of what that was. But anyway, he said, "What do you think your mother would say to you now?" And it was just as if she was right there. She said, "I didn't know we needed you." And the love that just flooded my heart was just indescribable. And what it did was open me to a love for myself. And so I just wanted to share that in response to Julie.
Whenever I work with you, there is that kind of love flooding toward you. And, it's not Bruce's love. It's just this exquisite oceanic love. And it just rushes at you, and nothing in you resists it. which is a real gift. A lot of people, I have to be very gentle with how that love goes in, because there's such sensitivity and disturbance around it. But when somebody is really open to that love, it floods in. And in a way, especially when you and I work, it's not even like a duality. It's like a singular love that just starts to sort of show itself, which is really what it is. And it's what I look for in my relationship with everybody here, to get to a point where the love looks in both directions and sees itself. It's so exquisite and it's so wonderful. It has no boundaries at all. And, a world that's in upheaval, which is ours appears to be, what is this underlying love? And why is it here? Why have we all been brought into this space? And what's the value of all of it? I can't tell you the answer to that. But the love itself makes me go, okay, I don't need the answers. I know this thing. I know there's a love undermining undermining is the wrong word, but supporting the entirety of what's going on, including the coming and going of individual souls and bodies, including all the suffering and the grief and the sorrow that's going on out there. There is this, in my mind, maybe I'm just a storyteller, I believe this kind of stuff, but I really feel that we are born out of love and we are returned to it. And everything in between serves some larger, God knows what, purpose. Possibly trying to make a better world. You can come up with stories, but I don't know. But I do know, if that love is in the world and it circulates around and we share it with one another, it's a great place to live while you're here. And I'm grateful for it.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for all you guys, showing up for this. And, as I said at the beginning, community amplifies this experience. People coming together in the name of love. The love filters out, and not only to us, but everyone around you for today and maybe days to come will be beneficiaries of what's happening here. That's a good thing. If you're going to live in the world, you can go to the supermarket and yell at people, or you can go to the supermarket and smile and help people and be good. I mean, there's so many ways to behave in the world, and when they're informed by this inner, still, peace, joyful wonder, it presents you with a different life. And I know, look, we're going to be having this discussion in one way or another for months to come, and I think the world's going to become much more complicated to navigate, but it doesn't change the navigational system. Get that in place. Know how to go through the day-to-day. And mostly it will always come back to the most simple thing, which is take a breath, open up, surrender, accept, be present, love. There you are. I don't know if it'll be more than that. If it is, we'll talk about it. And if it is, we'll share it together and help each other figure stuff out. But for the time being, the centrality of this practice is very worthy, and it's worth your time. And I encourage you, in times when you're staring at the blank canvas and can't figure out what paint to pick up or what book to pick up or what puzzle to put together, just sit still. Just sit. Watch what happens. And then when you don't like sitting anymore, sit 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds, 10 more. Get through the moment when you don't like it. Bless you, whoever sleeps. The work is not just the easy part, it's going through the hard part. And get strong, develop muscle, and be capable of really functioning in a dysfunctional space. If you can do that, you will be a gift to everybody, including yourself. Okay. Thank you for showing up. Let me tell you, next week I'm going to do San Rafael, the week after that, Los Angeles, and I'll be back. And those talks are all going to be on, YouTube and on my website, so you can hear what's being said. Mostly, I should tell you, I really miss our meetings. I really miss getting together physically. I really miss sharing a space, hugging you, and doing this in person. And I hope that we can get back to that. until that happens, thank you for showing up here. It's a real gift. Love you guys.